A few years ago, I took a look at LEGO City Undercover. As someone who bought this game for the Wii U as far back as 2013, in part because what the heck else was released in 2013 for the Wii U, I simply loved this game. The humor, the sprawling open world, and just the fact that after rehash of LEGO, the movie I've never seen, the LEGO franchise tried experimenting with something not only different, but dare I say, innovative. It wasn't without its flaws. Like all LEGO titles, it had some pretty demotivating backtracking. In terms of gameplay, it was kind of limited, and oddly for a game of this nature, there were no traditional side quests. Also, there was no music while driving, so you'd have to play this game listening to your internal demons. Still, I walked away from LEGO City Undercover both in 2013 and 2022 when I did the review, feeling like LEGO had made something special. So I was excited about what the future of the LEGO franchise could be as it pertained to video games. I shouldn't have been. It was all licensed games. So I kinda just let LEGO be LEGO for the longest time. And to be fair, they did try different concepts with the franchise, occasionally. The large majority of LEGO games, though, continued to be more LEGO Star Wars, LEGO Marvel, LEGO The Incredibles. I like The Incredibles, and I'm still perplexed by that game's existence. Now, I want to stress, there's nothing wrong with most of these games. They're wholesome family fun, and well made. Partially for me, the issue is I'm just not a movie guy, so I couldn't care less about LEGO Superhero Save the Day 32. After many years though, one LEGO title eventually caught my eye, this being LEGO 2K Drive. Now look, I'm not a racing game fan typically. I have played my fair share of Mario Kart and Pac-Man World Rally, but just making a video a bit too quickly and pissing off an entire fan base count as playing a racing game, I'll leave that up to you. But I don't know, something about LEGO 2K Drive just caught my eye. Maybe it was the fact that it was a LEGO game attached to no franchise again. Maybe it was the colorful world, the attractive gameplay, and apparent charm and wit that I loved from LEGO City Undercover thriving again. And so you could bet when it finally released in May of 2023, I was using my Switch until the rubber of the Joy-Cons fell off to play The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah, so LEGO 2K Drive released 1 week after The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, which I ended up putting over 100 hours into, and also I was still working on Xenoblade Chronicle 3's Future Redeem DLC at the time, so I simply forgot about this game, and not to mention, the original asking price, while not abnormal, was a full $60 for the Switch, Xbox One, and PS4 version, which is the going rate for one of those newfangled AAA games, was the going rate. So after spending $70 on Tears of the Kingdom, I didn't feel like increasing my debt for a stupid LEGO game that I thought I'd play twice. But really, honestly, I actually just kind of forgot this game existed until about a month ago. Oops. But like all LEGO games, give it a few years and you could find it on digital stores or even real stores for mere dollars. And so, a few weeks back, I saw LEGO 2K for only $12 on sale on the Nintendo eShop. And I remembered, LEGO 2K Drive exists at all? Now, we all know what LEGO is, unless you were a Connect's household or a Lincoln Logs household. I had all three. But what is 2K Drive? Obviously, 2K refers to the gaming titan by the same name, the one responsible for BioShock, famous sports titles like the NBA 2K series, and most importantly, is owned by famous parent company Take-Two Interactive, who houses franchises like Grand Theft Auto. Believe it or not though, 2K Drive itself was its own game, released on iOS in September of 2013. Technically making LEGO 2K Drive a spin-off title. As this was a digital app released 12 years ago, the game doesn't exist anymore, but looking back at archived footage, graphically it was pretty impressive for its time. Other than that, I have nothing to say about it. Honestly, there were hundreds of these racing games at the time on the App Store, but enough beating around the brick. Booting up the... what the hell is that doing here? Yeah, so Mez Media, also known as the makers of Pac-Man Fever, I guess worked on this game. They're a support studio now for 2K, so maybe they're just credited by default, but I still find it hysterical no one cared enough to update their Wikipedia page for it. Now, to be fair, I don't care either. Anyways, booting up the game, this has to be one of the ugliest menus I've ever seen. Now look, I play and review a lot of old games. It's possible I'm just getting up in age and don't know how game menus look nowadays, but this looks like someone took Fortnite and barfed it out, which is like barfing barf. Daily challenges, weekly tasks, season passes. If this were a free-to-play game, game, sure. But again, this was a full-priced video game at the time, so seeing all this bloat is actually fairly disrespectful in my opinion. And so immediately, we have a bit of a picture for why LEGO 2K Drive didn't really build a positive reputation. Looking at reviews for this game, they're not terrible, but seem a bit more on the average side. A big factor for that is the game's sheer amount of DLC, microtransactions, and insert all the other buzzwords that we all hate here. Looking at the Steam page, if you were to buy all of the DLC, you'd be spending an extra $75 on this game, 5 more than the original price for the PS5, Xbox Series X, and PC versions. But it only gets worse the further you look into it. Buying coins? Lego bucks? Again, this looks like something you see in a mobile title, like Mario Kart Tour, and while I hated it there too, at least it was free to play the base game. Like, technically speaking, if you bought the Awesome Edition, you got the first 4 season passes and some other trash, or if you wanted to spend 120 bucks, get more costumes, coins, and I just feel sick to my stomach even looking at any of this. I hate all of this, but I want to give this game as fair of a chance as possible, so I'm just gonna ignore the slop, ignore the microtransactions, the daily, weekly, monthly, yearly events. Let's just play the single player content and just There is a story here, though it's nothing mind-blowing. The game very simply sets up the idea that there's a Sky Cup Grand Prix, which to take part in, you need to beat other crazy racers throughout the world of Bricklandia, including the undefeated racer Shadow Z. Or sorry, maybe it's Shadow Z. You meet up with Clutch Racington, who, sure, basically just acts as your coach. I'm not dignifying that stupid pun with a response. To get to the Sky Cup, you have to win 24 flags by entering races throughout Bricklandia and competing in smaller Grand Prix, and that's basically the entire story. It's nothing special, but like other LEGO games, it's very funny. LEGO has always been great at humor, and there's no lack of that here. There's no like crazy twists or honestly any memorable moments, but look, it's a racing game. I wasn't expecting there to be any story period. As much as I talked about LEGO City Undercover to start this video, I don't think it's fair to compare this game's story to that. Now that being said, you do have a Navi type of character, Stud, which is what they call me whenever I enter a room. He's annoying as crap, and there are a lot of tutorials and handholding. It's almost like this game was made for children or something. Regardless, the game is funny as hell, with healthy doses of subversion, witty writing, and fourth wall breaking that LEGO games thrive off of. They even tease a sequel a few times. Not the first time that this has happened, so LEGO, maybe stop making this joke in your games. Now, cutting to the chase, please laugh and subscribe, let's talk about the actual racing. Now, as a lifelong student of the School of Mario Kart, it was hard for me to understand at first that LEGO 2K Drive is less like Mario Kart and more like Forza Horizon. Now, when it comes to real racing, the only thing I know is I am indeed a fan of Red Bull and caffeine in general, so my knowledge of that aspect of this game remains quite limited. Like, what the hell is a McLaren? It does look cool as hell, though. Okay, relax, I know what a McLaren is. To drive, you hold down the right trigger button. On consoles like PlayStation and Xbox that have actual analog triggers, this makes a lot of sense, since it's the typical gas pedal button. When you get to Nintendo, whoever since 2006 that analog triggers are the work of Satan's cousin himself, it's just sort of weird pressing down this flat button. Like with analog triggers, you get to dictate how much gas you're putting in at a given time. It gives you various increments. Wait, why am I playing this on my Switch? To brake or turn while driving, you either have to press the left trigger, or if you're looking for a sharper turn, you can press Y. It goes without saying that drifting is essential, as I assume it is in actual racing, but dang, when you pull it off around a tight turn, I feel as sharp as Lando Norris. See, I know some racing things. Now, something that isn't in Forza Horizons, and probably isn't in real life racing, is the ability to throw items with the Y button. It goes without saying, but I'm saying it anyway, that's a direct rip from Mario Kart. Now, there are some cute ideas in here, like the square wheels power-up, which turns your opponent's tires cubular. I'm presuming that's a word. I don't know how else to write that without doubling up on square wheels. There's the EMP, or EMP, no clue if that stands for anything. I'm calling it the electrifies my point of view and disadvantages your opponents if they're near you. The other power-ups are the Ghost, yep, Mines, yep, Homing Missile, yep, Web Crusher, yep, and the Fruit Cannon. Okay, this one, I don't know. You got me here, LEGO. You look at this silly item. There's also the Teleport, which I wanted to just call the Bullet Bill, as it, well, teleports you closer to first, but obviously this doesn't have any impact on the racers in between, so it's arguably better or worse than the Bill, depending on who you ask. But here's the thing. I poke fun at the obvious Mario Kart comparison, but the items in this game do generally feel fresh, and dare I say it, balanced. customized, which is something Mario Kart always struggles with from game to game. LEGO 2K Drive also doesn't have a blue shell equivalent, which is a pretty big deal, as we'll talk about a bit later. Oh, also by pressing X, you just jump. The entire car, it just jumps. Now importantly, you have a little boost meter at the bottom that charges automatically. Don't tell Sonic fans about this move, they'll start a 10-minute discussion with you about how the boost formula killed their precious franchise. But here, it's pretty efficient. You can either be fully empty and tap it consistently to always gain a bit of speed, or save it up and use it in pivotal moments. I actually really found enjoyment with this mechanism. I feel like it adds a lot of strategy without being too distracting either. And yeah, those are basically all the controls. It's fairly simple. Now, I should note that the camera is probably one of the most oversensitive cameras I've ever experienced in a video game. Seriously, there's basically no medium zone between all the way down and neutral. I couldn't find any fix for this in the options, but maybe that's just because the developers were too busy Fortnite-ifying the UI and forgot to add it in. Oops. The camera doesn't like ruin the game or anything. I got used to it, but I can't in good conscience call it acceptable either, and that's really fighting my conscience. The controls overall are a bit slippery and definitely take some time to get used to, but when you do, it's the type of game that I really felt myself locking in with and getting sort of addicted to. Alright, and to prove it, let me present to you a 2-hour gameplay clip where I was so invested with the game that I forgot I was playing. My Mag Mini was a little hot, wasn't happy with me. Oh yeah, I got a Mag Mini. I don't know if I ever told you guys. Surprise. But hey, we're not just ripping off Mario Kart here. Sonic and All-Stars Racing is also a victim. When switching between off-road, A-road, and water, you automatically switch vehicles. There's not really much to say about this besides some different physics, but it's something to shake things up. Though I gotta say, it's incredible how these cars can transform within mere milliseconds constantly. I'll also say you can choose different cars as well as your character, and some of these off-road cars had absolutely zero turning at all. Like this taco car, which I thought, haha, this would be a funny meme, this would be hilarious if I used it in the videos, but guess what, I couldn't really turn the vehicle, so it was sort of a problematic car. The story mode pivots between two main objectives. One is collecting flags by going across the 5 laps of Bricklandia and partaking in races against notable figures, and the other form of the gameplay has you playing various minigames to unlock the races. As said, as you collect flags, you get to compete in smaller Grand Prix, and by getting all 24, you get the honor of participating in the famous Sky Cup. You may think that the game would be pretty repetitive by just doing 24 races, but the game designers did a great job, in my opinion, at making them feel all distinct and enjoyable. And the minigames do help with the monotony a bit. Like, there was always a notable theme involved. One race may put you against various food vendors of a desert city, and another may pit you against a cat lady and her cats. It may sound like a joke, it's not. Birdie Backfire doesn't f*** around. Now, I'm not sure what the hell Birdie Backfire means, but one of my favorite moments about LEGO 2K Drive is the various names of the racers you come across. Like this one where you gotta race against all these spooky fellows, and there's Arachna Phillip, the Seymour Legs. I don't get all of them, like Abel Weaver. I'm sure there's a joke for literally all of these, and I'm just not big brain enough to get the references, but what I will tell you is, I'm big brain enough to know when the LEGO writers must have been in hysterics over a butt joke. See, the second world you go to, Butte Hills, is spelled with its corresponding word, which looks like the word butt. But it's not a coincidence. They use a damn donut to block off the E, and there's just butt jokes everywhere. Look, I get that I'm not the target demographic for this game, but the jokes sometimes were just so freaking cringe. And I don't make any cringe jokes on this show, so it's something I'm not used to. Now with the races, I won't say the themes are like groundbreaking or anything, but they did enough with the visuals, I felt, which kept the game engaging. Like, there are quite a number of tracks that are similar in aesthetic, but when they are similar, there's always different aspects of it. Like the spooky tracks have a swamp, but also there's a place with neon mushrooms or a scary castle. And I'll also credit the fact that the types of races are always unique. Sometimes you have a baby park for Mario Kart type of situation, where it's a small track with a high number of laps, and other times you'll just have one lap that's determined by a percentage completed of the track. Now, I do find the lack of a minimap to be a big piss stain. You always have the little circle one, which makes sense in the free roam mode, but what do you want me to do with this information during the race? I mean, it's better than nothing. It's still somewhat helpful, especially if there are loops or turns near you, but the translucent Mario Kart minimap feels more at home. I will say that generally speaking, these races are pretty easy. There were a few that kicked me in the shins, but most of these I won on my first go around. I don't feel like I was ever computer cheated in terms of difficulty though, because even if I did place first consistently, some of these wins were absolute nail biters. I will say though, the computer players in this game are up to something fishy. Even if I had an item to attack them and hit them with the most precise of precision targets, they'd always have a shield. I swear, it was not just once, twice, or thrice. This consistently was an issue, which made getting ahead kind of challenging sometimes. In fact, the rubber banding in this game always seems to be a point of contention amongst fans, and I have to second that, if you count me as a fan, which is debatable. The rubber banding in this game is so jank that I felt like a lot of my close wins weren't really a result of skill. I'm pretty sure it was just because I was in first that second place was just programmed to be super close to me all of the time by the invisible forces. The developers think that a rubber band works like this. Ooh, we're going so close. But in reality, here's how rubber banding should work. Damn it! Yeah, the rubber banding is not great, though it also means you're equally able to catch up without falling too far behind. So I like it when it benefits me. Now this is probably an argument for the infamous blue shells, since in both Mario Kart World and Mario Kart 8, I don't feel like the rubber banding in that game is typically an issue. In fact, if you're last at the start of the race, I find it really hard to catch up, specifically in Mario Kart World. All that being said, the Sky Cup though is both a satisfying conclusion to the game as well as being a solid challenge. I spent probably 30 minutes on this mode before winning, and so I found it genuinely satisfying. As it pertains to the mini games, these are fucking great. There are 3 types. One is sort of a tower defense mode, where you have 3 towers labeled A, B, and C, as waves of goons rain down with missiles and explosives, and with power-ups or driving straight through them, you have to defend the towers as much as you can. Now you can mess up pretty intensely and still win. Look at this situation. I thought for sure I was dead in the water, but you don't need to keep all 3 alive, you just need to keep any of them active to win. What help is that to the universe? Probably none. There's a minigame where you have to pick up citizens under attack and bring them to safety. These always also had my adrenaline pumping, which is embarrassing to admit as a grown man in his mid-20s playing a Lego game, but the score thresholds to win were always damn airtight. You could also run into the enemies to get some points, but they were like peanuts in comparison to saving the citizens. Unfortunately, these 2 minigames have a glaring problem for me, where I feel like turning around or making a precise movement doesn't really work in a vehicle. Yeah, you have the Y button to do a sharp turn, but it's basically impossible sometimes to get the angle you need to perform a move effectively. Like, you'll creep up slowly and sometimes be so close, but because you're essentially working with tank controls to hit something with precision, it's very easy to be completely off. There's also a minigame where you have to go out and return animals to the irresponsible farm owners in Bricklandia, whether they be pigs or bats. It's kind of annoying to have to go back and forth constantly for these, so I'd say this is my least favorite of the minigames, and honestly, some of these maneuvers are downright crap, especially when they force you to land on a target the size of a pancake. Now, LEGO 2K Drive also does have a pretty expansive free roam mode, which is massive. Maybe not in terms of sheer size, but in terms of activities and collectibles. I did a few hours of free roam mode and only scratched the surface. Not only are there a plethora of collectibles that actually are very well hidden, but there are some fairly engaging side activities too. Some of these just boil down to tiny missions to test your skills, but there are also some clever ones, like becoming a stunt driver for a movie. Not all these objectives are winners though. The game loves these missions where you have to move an object across the map, which as described with the minigames, can be really damn irritating when you lack precision. Okay, let's take a little detour, to use a racing term, and talk a bit about the free roam in Mario Kart World. Now, to preface this, I'm kind of doing this because I actually thought about doing a video on Mario Kart World at some point as a follow-up to my Mario Kart 8 video, but the idea became less attractive to me when every damn YouTuber thought they were being cutting edge by saying, I hate Mario Kart World and it killed my entire family. It's not an unpopular opinion if you all have the frickin' opinion. In fact, it's more rare to me when I see someone like Ant Dude say they actually like the game. I mean, this extends to other games too. Like, I'm more surprised when I see people say nice things about Odyssey or Breath of the Wild at this point. Like, I get it, y'all. The games are flawed in their own sorts of ways, but they're still good games. But Mario Kart World, yeah, it's definitely the most flawed of. Yeah, I would still give it like an 8 out of 10, but it is flawed. But as it pertains to free roam, I actually feel like LEGO 2K Drive handled this aspect a lot better than Mario Kart World. For one, you have collectible trackers in LEGO 2K Drive, which I can't believe I'm saying this, but you know, pretty big deal, and it actually encourages the player to look for the collectibles. Though of course, it does help that LEGO is condensed into smaller maps, but also LEGO's Bricklandia is much more lively. There are specific side quests, there are characters to talk to, even buildings to interact with, like the garages, is the world feels like a thriving society. Maybe not a thriving society, a society, but that's more life than Mario Kart World, which just has giant Yoshis and Toads just like sleeping on the dang benches. Get up and get a damn job. Now, I'm not gonna say that LEGO 2K Drive is a better game than Mario Kart World, but I would say that this game did its free roam aspects a lot better, which is really to say I really enjoyed LEGO 2K Drive's free roam mode. It reminds me of the genuine highlights of something like the free roam in LEGO City Undercover, and while this tangent might be a little out of place in this video, I think it's important to address that there was something I found better than Nintendo's latest and greatest Mario Kart game. I don't know where else to put this, but I also feel like it's important to talk about LEGO 2K Drive's performance. I played the Switch version on backwards compatibility mode with my Switch 2. On the Switch 2, I suffered minimal frame drops, and loads were actually quite quick. I'd say the graphics were pretty nice, if not a bit crusty, but it still felt like a substantial step forward over something like LEGO City Undercover, which to be fair is the last LEGO game I played. Unfortunately though, I dusted off my gross-ass Switch 1 that's been sitting at the bottom of my closet for 3 months now, and this game ran like, how do I say this in a very nice and dog. So yeah, just a heads up, the Switch 1 version rightfully did get docked amongst reviews for its crappy performance, but if you have a Switch 2, the game is a playable video game. An aspect I really appreciated about LEGO 2K Drive is the ability to build your own vehicles. Now, what does this really add to the game? I don't know. I don't know if this is just aesthetics or if the physics can actually be felt, but I love that this is an option. The building controls were a bit slippery, but it functions, which is more than can be said for me on a Monday morning. Now, I have zero talent when it comes to building modes in any games, but you can go online to see other people who, actually give a crap. And there are some really well-made vehicles here. These are actual vehicles for the most part, and not just like Shrek, SpongeBob, and Goku. And I only saw one vehicle that would get this video demonetized. Congrats. It sort of reminds me of the builder mode in Scribblenauts Unlimited, and seeing a community aspect for this game was a welcome addition. Unfortunately though, this might be the most active community aspect of LEGO 2K Drive. I tried playing the online mode, which firstly was a big pain in the ass to do. You can't just join a lobby. You have to make an entire 2K account if you don't have one. But even after the headache of making a separate account, playing online, I only found one driver named Nino.
Hello, my name's Nino.
At first, I thought this might be a real human being, but I came back to this mode after taking a bathroom break and reconnected with Nino.
Hello, my name's Nino.
Which makes me think that this was just a bot both times, meaning I can't confirm to you if human beings are actually playing this game in the year 2025. I would say take this with a grain of salt, as the PlayStation, PC, and Xbox versions are probably more active, but the fact I couldn't 100% confirm I played with anyone online, it's a yellow flag at best. With a presumably small online presence, this brings me to the question, why did LEGO 2K Drive miss the mark if this game isn't actually that bad? It's a well-made game, it's enjoyable to play, there's some serious passion thrown in here, so why in 2025 has basically everyone forgotten it exists? For one, I don't know if this game sold well or even sold bad. I can't find much information, period. The only blurb on Wikipedia is, LEGO 2K Drive was the 7th best-selling boxed game in the United Kingdom in its week of release. Now for reference, at the time I'm writing this, a game named Mafia: The Old Country held the same honor in the United Kingdom. Now it might be because I'm a Nintendo gamer, but I've never even heard of that. On the flip side, I can't say it sold badly definitively. To be fair, it may have done fine, but I think we can all agree that LEGO 2K Drive didn't blow the world away either. Apparently too, LEGO 2K Drive was in development for 5 years. In terms of game development, that's not cheap and that's not a short amount of time. Breath of the Wild had a similar development time. Going against my argument, so did Sonic Frontiers. We all try, don't we? Spending that long on something for it to be met with average reviews and presumably bad sales probably discouraged the developers from supporting it, and so I guess they pulled the plug on marketing fairly quickly, which becomes sort of a doom loop for why this game didn't leave a notable mark on society. Another issue I can theorize is that LEGO 2K Drive, to me, remains a key example of why companies really need to space out their game releases a bit from other publishers. I think there's a reason you didn't see game announcements for 2025 figured out until GTA 6 was delayed to the spring of next year. Releasing this game the week after Tears of the Kingdom, the most highly anticipated game of 2023, I won't say is like entirely why this game failed, but how many of you in May of 2023 were talking about LEGO 2K Drive, and how many of you were talking about Tears of the Kingdom? Especially when you consider that the target demographic for LEGO games are probably on the Nintendo Switch. It reminds me of how Sega was upset about Sonic Superstars' low sales numbers, despite releasing, the same week as Super Mario Wonder. What the hell did you expect to happen? It's possible, too, that the amount of microtransactions involved in LEGO 2K Drive really did some damage to this game's reputation, as it seemed to be a pivotal point of contention in many reviews, and you know what? Rightfully so. As said, it's a tall order to ask a consumer to spend more money after spending 70 smackaroos, and just looking at this game's menu gave me a headache, especially when you consider the game released in 2023, years after this practice started becoming more punished by the gaming community at large. While we're throwing ideas, another reason this game might have done poorly is just simply the same reason LEGO City Undercover never took the world by storm either. It's a LEGO game not attached to a famous franchise. I said famous franchise. I hate to say it, but that's why LEGO games usually do well. I don't think it's any one of those reasons specifically, to be honest. It's kind of like one of those pizzas where you get like a slice of olive, a slice of anchovy. I'm running out of ingredients that I actually hate on pizza because I like pizza, so this metaphor has failed, but you get the point. So that's what makes this review so difficult to conclude. I don't think it's one thing as much as basically everything. I want to emphasize again, we don't know the game failed, but the lack of buzz, the lack of notable sales data, the fact that basically no one remembers this game exists, the fact that the only person I played online with was Nino, doesn't give me much hope for this game's reputation. All of these issues, I feel, are probably tied to the fact that LEGO 2K Drive is a good game released in the wrong time. If it were like 2015, I could see this game being received more positively. I think people at the time were a bit more accepting of microtransactions, though they weren't received positively either, but that was because it was a new concept and no one really knew what they were rather than wanting them. This game, at least how it's presented and looks on the package, is a game that looks like it's too late to leave an impact, and sort of reminds me of Concord. It's a byproduct of a different time. It was developed with the idea it could be the next big thing, but released way too late for people to care, as I think people have largely moved on from this style of game. I'm here to say, though, that beyond all of the criticisms and reasons why this game didn't do well, I actually think LEGO 2K Drive is a good game. I mean, not like the best game ever made or anything, but I found some genuine fun and value in this product. I mean, ignore the crap at the front of the package, okay? I agree the EULAs, I agree with the microtransactions, season passes, that's all very cringe, and it's kind of hard to stomach, but if you look past all of that, you just choose the single player mode, I don't know, I was surprised because I thought this game was pretty fun. I don't know, for 12 bucks, it's more than worth it alone, but nowadays you can see this game for like $30 even when it's not on sale, and I think $30 isn't that bad of a price if you're, you know, a kid into LEGO games, or you're just an adult who likes an easier racing game, or I shouldn't have to justify it by making up demographics. If you like the game, $30 is pretty good, and I actually would say that this is sort of an underrated gem. Now, if you excuse me, I'm gonna go play LEGO 2K Drive on my... That's the LEGO 2K Drive theme song. You'll just have to trust me that I'm...